After the February 25th presidential election, different political parties have been reacting differently towards the manner at which INEC conducted the election. Above all, different political parties have been throwing stones at each other. Now it is the turn of PDP, and PDP says that Tinubu will be the third African president to be sacked by the court. Following the allegation of ballot rigging in the last concluded presidential election, the Atiku Abubakar Campaign Council stated that Nigerians will become the next African country to annul a presidential election that resulted in the election of the ruling All Progressive Congress candidate Bola Tinubu as president. Remember that the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC declared Tinubu the winner of the election despite protests from opposition political parties who have since gone to court challenging the outcome. INEC's failure to electronically transmit election results from 176,606 polling units to a public portal as required by the Commission's regulations and guidelines was one of the grounds for dispute by the People's Democratic Party. In a tweet by Daniel Bwanda, a spokesperson for the Atiku Abubakar Campaign Council, expressed optimism that Nigeria's February 25, 2023 presidential election will be annulled due to alleged ballot rigging. He went on to say that Nigeria, following Kenya and Mali, will be the third African country to be annulled presidential election. Supreme Court of Kenya annulled the presidential election for the first time in Africa. This was what was said. This is indeed a very historic day for the people of Kenya, and by extension to the people of the continent of Africa, Bwanda said. For the first time in the history of Africa democracy, a ruling has been made by a court nullifying a regular election of a president. It marked a watershed in the continent of Africa that democracy will survive. After that, the Supreme Court in Malawi followed suit. Nigeria is next. Save this post, he added. After Austria, the Maldives, and Russia, Kenya became the third country in the world and the first in Africa to annul a presidential election in 2017. Despite some international observers rating the election in Kenya as free and fair, the East African country's Supreme Court declared the President Uhuru Kenyatta election null and void. I think Bola Tinubu is the next, he added. Malawi's former president, Peter Mutharika, was fired by a constitutional court after being declared the winner of the country's 2019 presidential election. The court declared the presidential election result null and void, citing evidence of irregularities and ordered that new election be held within 150 days. Mutharika was defeated by Lazarus Chakwara in the rematch election. This is the situation in Nigeria. What will happen the next? Will Bola Tinubu be sacked by the appeal court? And if he is being sacked by the appeal court, what will happen at the Supreme Court? The public interest is so clear. The public is expecting that the court is going to sack the president. That is the position of the majority of the citizens. However, it's not because of what the citizens want or the emotions of people. It's all about the constitution. It's all about the violation of the electoral act by the INEC. It's all about the deliberate rigging. It's all about how the voters were suppressed against the people's wish. So, what will happen the next? The Arise News guest, Professor Chris, has this to say. Listen to the end.
Something tells me that the judiciary will do right. Something tells me that the judiciary understands the urgency of now. Something tells me that the judiciary understands that the Nigerian people are looking up to them. Something tells me that the judiciary understands that democracy will only thrive when there's justice. And then very importantly, I want to start this, my delivery here by saying that the media and indeed the civil society are partners in this whole process. I believe that the time has come for us to nudge the judiciary to do what is proper, right, and right. And sincerely, I think that with the hoopla of media reportage on what is happening at the level of the judiciary, something good will come out of it. The APC is saying that they want justice, interestingly so. The PDP is saying that they want justice, interestingly so. And the Labour Party says that they want justice. But there's something that comes to my mind as we discussed this morning. And that was the quote by my mentor, Martin Luther King Jr., who said a long time ago that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. And I believe that as we discuss our democracy, as we x-ray the events of February 25th and the election that followed afterwards, the governorship election, as we work as a people towards deepening democracy, one thing is very important, that not only has the election monitors, local election observers and monitors, including Yaga Africa and the likes, lampooned the last election as predominantly flawed. The European Union did so, and several other agencies have done so. And so all eyes are on the judiciary. Nigerians are saying that the time to do what is proper, right, and right is now. And I sincerely believe that somehow it's a hunch that is strong within me that the judiciary will do what is right.
All right, Chris, thanks for that clarification. But then I wanted you to speak more in terms of public expectations. A lot of people will say, yes, you are in court, and the court is preparing to make their decisions known. But then there's also the question of the Lamidi Apapa faction of your party. And many people will say that if you are talking about justice, maybe that should be addressed from the aspect of the fact that those who are supposed to be the real owners of the party, of Labour Party, have been, shifted to one side, and you are trying to forcibly take over control of the party from them. Lamidi Apapa's faction is in court, and it looks like he's not doing too badly in terms of the what he has presented to the court. If ultimately his faction wins in court, do you think that everything that you have built your case upon might come crumbling down in the event that Lamidi Apapa is recognized as the true chairman of the party? Because as you know, part of what he is asking the court for is that every elections and the primaries up to that of your candidate at the presidential elections, Mr. Peter Obi, should not be recognized. All the elections done by the Abure faction. So I'm asking you emphatically, if ultimately Lamidi Apapa is recognized as the authentic leader of the party, how would that affect your chances at the court?
Steve, let me say very clearly that discussing Lamidi Apapa and the shenanigans around the legalese, if you like, and what he's saying, at some point, Lamidi Apapa did say that his battle is not against the candidacy of Peter Gregory Obi. At another point, the puppet and the puppeteer scenario plays out, and he says, oh no, I dispute everything that happened under Abure. But, between both of them, I want to say clearly that inimitable quote of Sir Walter Scott, that Scottish writer and poet, comes very handy as we discuss this. Walter Scott said a long time ago, oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. Interestingly, what is before the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal is not the case of Lamidi Apapa. It's not about whether he is the authentic chairman or not. INEC did recognize Peter Gregory Obi as the authentic candidate of the Labour Party. But let me say very importantly that as we discuss the happenings and as we discuss the expectations, like you noted, of the Nigerian people, Nigerians are desirous of justice, nothing but justice. They want the judiciary to do what is proper and right. Nigerians want the interpretation of the law, ditto the Electoral Act, and indeed the Constitution as it pertains to the presidential election of February 25th. Nigerians want to see justice. And let me say very importantly also, Steve, that congruent with democracy is the sanctity, is the credibility, is the dignity of the electoral process. You can only say that you're truly democratic when the rights of the people expressed through the electoral process is truly upheld. And so, as we discuss, what is important to the Nigerian people is that they see a judiciary that sits uprightly to decide who indeed won that election. And I believe, like I said in my opening remark, that the judiciary would do what is proper, right, and right. And I'll give you two reasons why I do believe so. You know, the first is the red flag that was thrown by Mr. President and his team. They did say in no uncertain terms that a certain demand by the Constitution for a president to win 25% of Abuja must be upheld, and that if the judiciary decides to rule on that position, that there is likelihood of anarchy, and that's trying to overawe or threaten the judiciary because they know the truth, you know. And the APC, the PDP, and indeed the Labour Party has said that clearly the president did not win 25% of the votes cast in the Federal Capital Territory. That's on the one hand. Then on the second hand, what is important for us, and indeed the judiciary, is to determine whether indeed the vice presidential candidate and who has become the vice president of the APC, who has become the vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, did meet with the constitutional provision, because indeed at some point he had two tickets, one for the Senate and one for the office of vice president. So these are fundamental issues and they're constitutional issues. I think that what is important for us and indeed our country is for the judiciary to do right. And interestingly, Steve, you also remember, and I know you know that quote by James Russell Lowell. He was born in the year of our Lord 1819. Lowell said something that is very remarkable and important at this point in our historicity. When he wrote the poem, The Present Crisis, Lowell said, "Truth forever on the throne, truth forever on the scaffold, falsehood forever on the throne. Yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the darkness, the dim unknown, standeth God in the shadow, keeping watch above his own." The Nigerian people are those who are indeed interested in how we deepen our democracy, and they want to sustain our democracy beyond the shenanigans and the politics of political office holders and political operators. And I belong to that constituency that says that the time has come for us to work and do things correctly and rightly. We want a nation that adheres to the rule of law. And I believe, and I implore the judiciary to interpret the law effectively, not to pander to technicalities, but ensure that they support the civil society and indeed the Nigerian people in ensuring that justice is done. You know, so regarding Lamidi Apapa and what they're doing, you know, like I said, is a puppet and the puppeteer.
All right.
The witch cried last night, the child dies this morning, and you know, you make your conjecture, Steve.
All right, Mr. Chris, I wanted to just narrow in again on the confidence of the judiciary. I mean, the public confidence. You have said that the judiciary understands that Nigerians are looking up to them. But do you think Nigerians have lost confidence? I mean, owing to that report that Shaitan mentioned earlier, alleging that Tinubu and the CJN, Ariwola, had a phone conversation on how to pressurize the presidential election petition court to rule in favor of Tinubu. You know, Nigerians understand that the CJN wields enormous influence in the presidential election cases, which, you know, most times end up at the Supreme Court. So I can understand also why the courts had to debunk that claim. But what does it say about the public confidence in the judiciary? This is my question to you, because, you know, be it as it may, they might come up with their ruling. Do you think Nigerians will trust that ruling? And I would like for you to actually address Atiku Abubakar's statement on Saturday, where he accused the APC of trying to compromise the judiciary by threatening them. with anarchy and all of that. I'd like for you to address both, please.
Let me say clearly that there is something in the political amphitheater, there's something in the socio-political horizon that suggests that the people have some level of confidence in the judiciary. And I say this, if we didn't, we'll be on the streets. If we didn't, there will be anarchy by now. If we didn't, we won't be saying that we're looking up to the judiciary. If we didn't, you won't have the hashtag all eyes on the judiciary. We believe somehow that the judiciary will do what is proper, right and right. Let me also say that the statement by His Excellency the former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ditto that Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his team trying to threaten and overhaul the judiciary is by surreptition trying to compromise the judiciary. Don't forget that quickly the judiciary has come to try to build public trust and to say that they are not being compelled by the executive to knee-jerk our democracy, to threaten our democracy, or to give wrong ruling. I want to say with all sense of respect that I believe that the judiciary will do what is right for three strong reasons. They understand that the masses of our people are better politically aware now than ever. And they understand that the plethora of reportage and information regarding the last election scores the election as the most flawed in our recent history. Everyone understands the monumental electoral larceny that happened on the 25th of February. So that's point number one. Nigerians are watching and expecting that the judiciary will do right. Point number two is that the presidency does understand that somehow, should the judiciary follow the law strictly, they will lose. And so they're trying to threaten the judiciary by saying that there will be anarchy if they rule that the last election was truly flawed. Point number three, my principal, Peter Gregory Obi, has said in no uncertain terms that he believes that the judiciary will rule according to the facts before it. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has said in no uncertain terms that they will not accept anything but justice. And I want to say without equivocation that the civil society believes that nothing but justice will sustain our democracy. So I want to believe that you understand the urgency of now.
Yes.
I also want to believe that the presidency and indeed judiciary understands the urgency of now, that what Nigerians expect is nothing but justice. And so I am confident, like I said, that the judiciary will do right.
All right, Chris. But you know, Atiku also alleged that the harassment of the judiciary is a playbook from 2019 when they removed CJN Onogen and replaced him with Tanko Mohammed, who himself was later accused of corruption by his colleagues at the Supreme Court and resigned shamefully. That is from Atiku. But you know, the APC government, they also said that the APC government never went after Tanko as they did on Onoge's case, because it was never about corruption, but about the election. I'd like for you to, try to respond to that aspect of his final address.
Very importantly, we've seen the tendency of the APC, the All Progressive Congress, to try to threaten and overhaul the judiciary. We saw it from the immediate past, President Muhammad Buhari, when they ransacked, harassed, harangued, and threatened the judges. We've seen a litany, a chain of where, you remember, like you cited, the case with the former CGN Onogen. But I live in a day where the masses of our people are better aware and awoken than they ever were. I live in an age where we have a movement in this country called the Obedient Movement, fierce, passionate, and determined. I live in a country, and I'm one of their leaders, I live in a country where people are saying that what is proper, right, and right must be done. I live in a country and in an age. That's why I will quote the little saint called the Mahatman from India, Mahatma Gandhi. He said something that is very instructive, that there comes to a time in the life of a people and a nation where even the devil understands the urgency of that moment, and the devil has a predilection to doing right. That's strong. And that's where we are in our historicity. The people in the villa understands the urgency of now. The people in my hometown of Ibuzo understands the reality of this moment. The people in Lagos, in Abuja, across our geopolitical zones understands that our democracy is more than ever before threatened by injustice, and that what must be done to sustain our democracy is justice. And so I believe that the Supreme Court, headed by Arewala, the CJN of the country, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, that they understand that nothing but justice can sustain our democracy. So I believe and I expect them to walk strictly within the confines of the law and refuse to be knee-jerked, refuse to be threatened, refuse to be overawed by the executive into passing a judgment that will be against the facts before the Nigerian people and the facts before the courts of law. I believe that our democracy will fare better if they rise up to the challenge and the urgency of now. And I so believe that they understand that reality and that they will do right.
I mean, you have spoken about how justice, of course, plays, and I believe the judiciary also plays a critical role in safeguarding democracy. Now, in your opinion, how can Nigeria's judiciary maintain its independence and integrity amidst political pressures and contested election outcomes, also ensuring that the judiciary remains impartial and protected from undue influence? What broader reforms, or would I say measures, should be considered to strengthen our country's democracy and continue to ensure the independence and effectiveness of its judiciary in resolving electoral disputes? So not just general suggestions. Let's talk about actual reforms that could make a difference when it comes to our judiciary.
Let me start by saying that in answering that question, I will sound like John the Baptist in the wilderness of the Middle East. I would sound like Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him, in Arabia. I would sound like my mentor Mahatma Gandhi in India. And I want to say that the time has come for men to realize and understand that whatever we do, that karma is real. To understand also that whatever we sow, it's part of a golden rule. What you sow, you reap. And to understand that the challenge of posterity is for good men and men of integrity and good conduct to rise up and alter chains of wickedness, disease, despondency, and falsehood. I believe that the judiciary must stand up and uphold the oath that they swore to, which is to dispense justice without fear or favor, without let or hindrance. And I say that that image of mother justice, the blinded female, should resonate in their subconscious and make them see nothing but that which is right. And then I also think that regarding legal reforms, the time has come for us to ensure that the executive does not appoint the head of the Electoral Commission. You know, let us look the way of the Justice who weighs recommendations and ensure that at worst, either the National Assembly or the Judiciary appoints the man to superintend over the Electoral Commission. And then also, as we discuss our country and how to deepen our democracy, let us create a cult, if you like, of men who truly believe that democracy will die if we allow electoral subterfuge and lessen it to prevail. And that's what happened in February. So I urge those who wear the wig, I urge the judiciary to rise up to the challenge and the urgency of now, and to understand that the Nigerian people are looking up to them. Let me deviate a bit. Sheita, we live in Nigeria. Steve, we live in Nigeria. We live in a country that is interested in deepening the frontiers of democracy. We live in a country that wants the rule of law to prevail and persist. We live in a country that wants, knowing that God has blessed our country with amazing riches, predominantly with munificence and wealth ineffable. The time has come for leadership to be responsible and responsive to the people in every respect.
All right.
You do not steal the mandate of the people and expect them to trust you. So the time has come for the judiciary to ensure that we all deepen democracy and ensure that the rule of law prevails.
Okay, Chris, I mean, that's understood, but don't let us get emotional about our expectations in this matter. Very quickly, before we let you go, yes, it's now down to the wire, down to the courts to decide. You know, everybody has presented their case. What do you say to people who said that, yes, your lawyers, everything, might have highlighted the things that you have said to us about the 25% requirement in FCT, about the propriety of how the vice president was nominated, and of course about certain alleged integrity issues surrounding, you know, the candidacy of the president. But then people say that apart from Rivers, the case of Rivers State, that it looks like, yes, that's something that people will easily call for Labour Party, that you have not in any way proven that you won the elections, that you scored more votes than even the PDP, that it looks more like you are seeking the disqualification of the president rather than actually establishing the fact that you won the election and you performed better than the PDP. What do you say to such people without having to delve into what we will expect from the courts directly? Just in a few minutes, please.
Steve, reps ipsa loquitur. The fact speaks for itself. Clearly, even with the mutilated facts and figures that INEC put up and put out, Peter Gregory Obi won more states than all the candidates put together. He won the whole of the Southeast. He won 4 of the South-South states. He won some of the North Central states. And let me say clearly, he won Lagos. He defeated Tinubu in his home state, in the state he governed. Let me say very clearly that we know the truth. You know the truth. The people out there know the truth. The judiciary knows the truth. And that is why the president-elect, the president and his team are trying to overawe and threaten the judiciary. But I want to say, as we, you said I shouldn't get emotional, but I'm thinking about a Kaite who lives in Cross River, who is badly traumatized by leadership without responsibility. I'm thinking of Ufuma in my home state of Delta, who has to buy fuel at 617 naira to power her small generator so her small salon can work. I'm thinking of Kainde, I'm thinking of Tunde, I'm thinking of Musa, I'm thinking about our country and our people. Steve, without sounding or patronizing anyone, I have a lounge in Abuja and I had to buy fuel yesterday. I bought fuel with tears in my eyes. I bought fuel for over 120,000 naira, Steve, for a car and a lounge. And how much money do you make? There's hunger, disease, despondency, poverty, depression, and want. And Nigerians voted for a man who has said to them that will revolutionize governance, that will turn things around for the better. What we have, as you and I talked today, the dollar against the naira is over 860. The euro is above 900. The pound is above 1,000. Steve, I'm emotional. And so are the millions of Nigerians out there emotional. They go to the market and can't buy anything. Steve, I'm troubled like you are troubled. I know you're trying to be dispassionate, but the truth is that the time to do right is now. And the onus is on the judiciary to do right. All eyes are on the judges of the Presidential Electoral and Petition Tribunal, and indeed the Supreme Court and the CJN. And like I told you, it is because we have faith in the judiciary that we're not on the streets. The APC cannot levy anarchy. It is those who have the right,
All right, Chris.
who understand that they won the election,
All right, Chris.
that can take particular steps.
Okay,
and
thank
we
you.
are waiting
Thank
for
you,
the
Chris.
judiciary to do what is proper.
Absolutely.
Right and
We
right.
really need to go, Chris. And I just want to say that keep your lounge going and keep your hopes renewed.